Hello there, this is Big Brain Zeeebo speaking and welcome back to this AFK journey video. So in this AFK journey video, we're going to talk about the Celestial Hypogean priority guide post Harak with a detailed breakdown of the current usage of the different units, as well as who should go for them and how much you should commit to these units. So starting off with the very first character, we have Berial, the very first character that is released into the game. So this character right now, I'll say, is decently usable across different PvP teams. So there are a few team archetypes that wants to run Berial, and specifically in the niche factor, he's quite powerful against assassins as well as single target units, which likes to spread out on battlefield. So generally still a pretty usable PvP character. Obviously not as strong as some of the later characters we will talk about, but he has the teams and the users for him. So he is more of a character that's recommended for the whales or players with the resources to try to max him out to minimally Supreme Plus in order for him to maximize his PvP usage itself. So that's for Berial's case, not recommended for the masses, but recommended for people who are PvP centric or has the additional resources to push for this unit for the different purpose here. Now for the next unit, we have Dionel. So Dionel is not exactly the second unit, but technically next after Berial, because it's also a very PvP centric character. So for Dionel's case, right, this character is strictly PvP. For Berial's case, you can still see some use for him in certain PvE teams or even certain PvE stages, but for Dionel's case, it's mostly for the arena and the Supreme Arena side. But for Dionel's case, if you do build him up to a respectable tier that is usable within your own bracket, he is in one of the strongest teams for the PvP side of things, right? The Dionel hyper carry teams or Dun and Dionel teams, and Dionel as a carry is one of those rare carries that is a direct counter to Harak, provided you have the team built up for him. So pretty good unit if you want to deal with Haraks in the PvP side, but generally similar to Berial, he's more whale centric. So this is provided if you have the resources to build him up on top of all your other characters, that he will be a good character for you to counter Haraks on the PvP side of things. So that's for the Dionel analysis. One of the strongest character, but requires quite a bit of resources as well as a lot of team built up to make him the massive hyper carry. So next we move on to Scarlita. So for Scarlita's case, her usage is still generally versatile. I think her Dream Realm usage has fallen massively from the previous season because of the change in the skill set itself. And for the PvP side, with the rise of Harak, Scarlita is still decently usable, but definitely sort of become less optimal because Harak is able to steamroll much faster and is able to eat up your whole team before Scarlita is even able to come down and carry you. So I think her PvP usage is still there, but like she's more for the versatility side. You won't be using her for the carry potential because she's just not as fast. But if let's say your bracket is a lot slower, if your bracket can allow her to charge up, come down, deliver massive damage, insta kill your opponent, I think she's still top tier for the PvP side of things. Now for the AFK stage side, decently usable in very niche situations against very annoying characters like Talene as well as Igor, right? Because he can just send them out, prevent them from reviving, preventing them from getting inbound or becoming like whatever status that they want to go into. So that is one of the strengths and niche that she has for now, and probably until another unit with this similar kit comes by to replace her. Now for the comment for Scarlita's case, I'll say she's a generally versatile character, but by no means a high tier priority character because her general versatility is there, but it's like behind a lot of other characters which we are going to talk about later on. So let's say if you haven't built her up, I won't recommend you to go for her because there are other better characters down there. But let's say if you have the other characters built up and you want some sort of PvP versatility or just an upgrade to your PvP strength, then I think she's a good character to get to the Supreme Plus tier. So for her, right, minimally Supreme Plus, because her Supreme Plus skill is going to make a massive difference in terms of her shielding utility. Because not only does she provide a shield, she also provides a massive defensive buff for the ally shielded, which increases their survivability. So for her, she's quite expensive, but definitely delivers result if you do build her up. So that's for Scarlita's case. Then next we have Reiner. So we have come to the more commonly used characters category. So for Reiner's case, right, this character is still used in many meta Dream Realm teams, right? So one of the more budget-friendly option for the Celestial Hypogean side that was heavily recommended by people to first build up, right? Initially, before the release of Sonya, I'll say Reiner would definitely be on the top of the priority in terms of building up, because you use him basically everywhere at every stage in the game, and he's used across multiple different game modes. So his value is definitely there, and because of this insane flexibility as well as insane users across different stages, from the early to the mid to the endless stage, this character definitely is still one of the higher priorities character. But unfortunately, as of right now, with the release of Sonya basically does pretty much what Reiner wants to do, but at a much cheaper cost. Because if you consider the fact to upgrade Reiner, you need to bring him to Mythic Plus. So the amount of cost for you to upgrade him to Mythic Plus is a lot higher than you getting Sonya to Mythic Plus for the exact same purpose of buffing up for your team. And even if you were to bring Sonya to Supreme Plus to deliver the additional damage, it will still be cheaper than bringing up a Celestial Hypogean character just based off the Stellar Crystal to normal invite letter conversion. So generally, Sonya is a much cheaper character that can replace Reiner in a lot of different situations, and that's why Reiner's priority has fallen. But let's say if you do value his general versatility as well as his users across the different stages of the game, he will still be a good character to go for first, get him to M+, and then move on to the other Celestial Hypogean characters. So that's for Reiner's analysis and feedback. Now moving on to the next character, Phraesto. So Phraesto right now, I've shifted his priority in terms of his versatility to become the most versatile and powerful all-rounder character. So Phraesto has always been really useful since the start of the game to the endless stage. So at the very start, when you are pushing your AFK stages, Phraesto is one of the strongest tank option in the game, with the ability to provide utility to your backlines, right, to all the allies behind him. And even moving towards the endless deficit pushing, the infinite stage pushing, Phraesto is still one of the best frontliners, being able to tank up as well as buff up your units to spam their ultimate or survive better with damage reduction. So from the early to late to the endless stage, very useful for the AFK stage pushing side, decently usable for PvP side just for general tankiness as well as buffing up of your units. And last but not least, this unit is used in all the different endless Dream Realm teams right now, even with the magic charm sort of changes which made him less offensive by nature, still really good, and he's basically on every team. So his current usage or his current power level basically makes him the most recommended character to go for because of the general versatility as well as his late game power to secure your endless Dream Realm rankings itself. So right now, right, Phraesto's priority will be higher than Reiner for me. Compared to the previously, I'll say this is higher, but now I think Phraesto is higher. So minimally, you want to get him to Supreme tier because his maximum capacity in terms of the Dream Realm side is EX15 for the additional summon, so that you can abuse that summon with Harak synergy to revive another illusion for Harak to actually eat up. So that will be the minimum recommendation or the recommendation for me for Phraesto. So Supreme tier minimally, and then get to EX15 to maximize his usage across different game modes. So next, let's move on to Talene. So for Talene's case, Talene is still one of the strongest magical damage dealer in the game. So if you have game modes where you need to use her for really insane magical damage or insane AoE damage, such as Relentless Rumble, such as Titan Reaver, or even future contents to come, I think she will still be really useful for those purposes. And even in the Endless Dream Realm side, she's still usable in the Endless Croaker team in terms of the meta teams. And she used to be one of the pre-Endless Dream Realm poster child. So if you're in the pre-endless state, right, if you just started the season or if you haven't reached the endless stage of the game itself, she is a really good Dream Realm character before you enter the endless bosses. And she's also decently usable for PvP purposes. Generally, the Celestial Hypogean Factional Talent team, the Tarsi Talene Arena team, as well as the anti-insta-kill team in general. So that's her current usage. Now for her overall evaluation, I think she's still one of the strongest single target magical damage dealer. maybe on par with Lily May, or maybe even better from the damage compartment. So Lily May is a little bit better in terms of utility, in terms of surviving better, whereas for Talene's case, I think her numbers are just generally bigger. So if you need a unit that does massive damage and you want insane AoE coverage, I think Talene's a pretty good character, but she's still generally weak to disruptions. So control disruptions still going to interrupt her ultimate channeling, and if you have any ways to deal with her, like for example Scarlita sending her out immediately, then her general power level will be a lot lower. So it's dependent on who you face and whether or not you need her. But I'll say her priority comes after you getting Phraesto, Harak, or even Reiner, because like I think this will be a must-have. This is a really good to have, and Harak right now is the true poster child. So if you want to go for Talene, I'll say she's probably in the same category, maybe a little bit higher compared to Scarlita. So later on I'll give my own priority compilation. So for her, same thing as Phraesto, you want to unlock her EX15 for the additional revive on your ally with the Pyre of Renewal buff. So that's why I suggest you to get her to Supreme minimally for this EX weapon unload. So next one, we have the strongest PvP character. So Dun is not the strongest character in PvP, but she's in some of the strongest archetypes, and that's because he's anti-meta, right? This character basically shuts down some of the strongest combos in game, and this results in him being this T0 PvP character with some of the strongest teams in the game, right? Not just Dun and Dionel, but you can use Dun and Lily May, for example. You can use Dun with Harak, for example. So if you're using a hyper carry team, you can use Dun to shut down the opponent and then let your hyper carry come online faster or come online more efficiently. So that's why she is a very good PvP character right now with a lot of usage, especially with the release of Harak. I think Dun's value just increased by a lot because he's one of the best partner with Harak, but also one of the best counter against Harak as well. So that's the current usage part. Now for Dun's case, right, strictly PvP centric, I think if you're going for Dun, you will be looking at minimally Supreme Plus just to maximize his PvP potential, as well as to unlock the maximum Clemency Chime buff for the maximum hyper carry buff on the backline. So Dun is best used with hyper carry teams in general. So one carry that wants to get that Clemency Chime buff such that that carry can steamroll. So most commonly is Dun and Dionel. Dun and Harak is usable. Dun and Lily May is also pretty okay. So that will be the general usage for Dunlingr over here, but more recommended for the whales and the heavy spenders or people with the resources. So lastly, we have the brand new poster child. Let me shift my text box a little bit. Harak right here, I'll group him in the T0 PvP and PvP unit. So I was testing out multiple different teams to try to counter Harak teams in the normal arena side, and I got to say this character is really strong there, even in normal PvP. So his power level in the Supreme Arena side is without a doubt one of the strongest in the current stage of the game due to the Mauler factional talent, but even in the normal arena side, he's also really impressive. So generally a really powerful character all around, both used in the PvP as well as PvE, as he's also used in a lot of the endless Dream Realm bosses as well. So you kind of need him to secure your rankings there, and that's why he's the poster boy for the game right now. And with regards to his kit itself, one thing I would like to point out is I personally feel that he benefits a lot from this season's mechanics together with his skill set. So his own skill set is really strong, but I think the fractional talent makes him a lot more viable, be it through the normal AFK stage pushing as well as the Supreme Arena side, because it fixes his survival issue. One way to deal with Harak is you bring him down as fast as possible, but those Molotovs just makes him a lot tankier and survive better, and that's where it makes it such that he's really good with these existing sets of mechanics. So moving forward, I'm not too sure whether or not he will still be as good, but if you base it off what he does right now as well as his general power level, he's definitely up there together with Phraesto in terms of priority. So in terms of priority, I will suggest getting Phraesto first for most people, and then focusing on Harak, because Harak does require a decently completed hero collection to see his full power, and at the same time, I think in terms of versatility, Phraesto is just better all across the board compared to Harak. And even I'll say like in the earlier stages of the game, I feel that Harak might not be as strong, but Phraesto is just a lot better in terms of the earlier stages before the pre-endless bosses itself. So that's why I'll recommend Phraesto first, but after that Harak will be the next recommendation. And in this case, Harak minimally will be Supreme Plus, because the difference between Supreme and Supreme Plus is the Supreme Plus skill, which gives him 700 energy after casting his ultimate, and his ultimate is a massive source of damage from him. Therefore, you definitely need that skill unlocked to get the maximum damage output out of Harak. So that's it for the different discussion for the characters. And then next we talk about the general priorities, right? So Phraesto, generally one of the most recommended across all the other units because of his strengths across all the different stages of the game, as well as his late game potential across all the different Dream Realm bosses and his usage across different game modes. Then we have Harak together with Reiner. So personally, I think Reiner would be lower if you are planning to max out Sonya, but if you were to rate Reiner based on how useful and strong he is, I'll group him in the same tier as Harak. So Harak is just really strong right now because of the current mechanics, but I still see him being really good even without the factional mechanics or even the new waves of intrigue mechanics itself. So I'll just put him here, but this will be subjected to change moving forward once we go into the season 3 itself. Then based off Talene and Scarlita, I'll group them together. I'll say maybe Talene a little bit higher compared to Scarlita, but Scarlita is generally still really good and has always this Scarlita magic factor to consider in the PvP side. So I will put her on the same level as Talene. But some people might disagree because Talene is generally more versatile PvE wise, being one of the strongest damage dealer. But if I were to sort of group their overall usage as well as what they can do for each game mode, I think they are on the same level. So next one, let's talk about the PvP recommendation. So this is for those of you guys who have the resources and you want to go for some of the strongest PvP characters, then these 5, they are the strongest combination. So Scarlita, Dun, Dionel forms the Dun and Dionel hyper carry comp, with Scarlita for the late game coverage as well as the shielding to protect your Dun as well as your Dionel. So Dionel's your hyper carry obviously, Dun's your frontliner as well as the buffer. And then for Phraesto's case, Phraesto goes well into a lot of different teams and one of the best activator for the Celestial Hypogean talent tiles, and Harak is currently one of the best hyper carry outside of Dionel if he's able to steamroll. So he's more versatile than Dionel, but Dionel in the Dun and Dionel team is stronger than him in most cases. So that's pretty much it for today's Celestial Hypogean priority guide. Hopefully this guide is helpful, and as usual, do remember to like and subscribe to see more. See you guys again in my next video. Bye guys.